The Witcher 3 is my favorite game of all time, but I can't say that I enjoyed it from the start. I definitely started playing the game with the wrong mindset and looking for the wrong things in the game. For example, I was not exactly familiar with RPGs that put a lot of focus on the story, the characters, and the world itself. Really, I was the kind of gamer that expected and wanted high intensity combat and a story that's moving pretty quickly to make sure that I could go back in the action as soon as possible. I actually talked about something very similar in my Hearts of Stone video, but I do feel like it's important to bring up again because it's definitely extremely relevant in this case as well. So yeah, for example, I would skip dialogue or even avoid some of the dialogue options completely during my first playthrough. Now, that was after playing Witcher 2 and trying Witcher 1. I say trying because in 2019, I bought the entire trilogy together in a package, and of course, as most people would do, I think, I started with the first game. Now, think about how I approached Witcher 3. Well, I did the exact same with Witcher 1, but I feel like Witcher 1 actually is even worse in terms of what I used to look for in a game. Especially the combat and the graphics, it's very dated, and I remember barely making it to chapter 2 and I was super bored. Then I stopped playing the game for a couple of years. So now, going back to my experience with The Witcher 3, about halfway done with my first playthrough, I'd say, I started enjoying The Witcher for what it is. A great and complex world with incredible characters and top-tier storytelling. And I think that describes The Witcher 3 pretty well, actually. Now, I do kind of feel like video games are one of the best, if not the best way to tell a story. And let me tell you, I certainly did not feel that way prior to playing The Witcher. So, with The Witcher 3, I got immediately hooked when I started caring about the right things and focusing on the things that the game does best. When I tried to play Witcher 1 again recently, I decided to approach it as I would approach Witcher 3 today. And guess what? It turns out they do share a lot in common, in my opinion. In fact, I was actually very surprised at how quickly the game managed to hook me. It's also worth mentioning that obviously I do care about the world a lot more now. I have this connection with Geralt that I didn't have back in 2019 when I first tried to play The Witcher 1, so I definitely do care a lot more about the events happening now. As a quick side note also, to be perfectly honest, I initially planned to make only one video for The Witcher 1, a review for the entire game, but after playing for a couple of hours, I just need to share my thoughts already. I just wanted to make a video so bad, and I decided to make one. Now, who knows, as I keep progressing, I might change my mind again and make even more Witcher 1 videos. I guess only time will tell. Alright, now let's talk about my actual experience playing The Witcher today in 2023. I guess the first thing that struck me, and it might sound weird, but in many ways, it feels like The Witcher 3. They use very similar techniques for storytelling, for example. Also, the music is fantastic. The overall art style, it just feels like home, really. Now, I won't just pretend that the game is perfect and that there are no issues whatsoever. I think there are a couple of things that definitely hurt the overall experience and made me roll my eyes a couple of times. Namely, annoying and unclear quests, very limited amount of character models, and at times questionable dialogue and voice acting. Of course, they had limited resources while developing the game compared to, say, Witcher 3, so some of this makes sense. It's also very old, so things were different back then. For example, you won't encounter many fetch quests in The Witcher 3, but when you do, it usually ends up being a minor aspect of the quest, and there is a different payoff somewhere during the quest. The fetch quest is pretty much just an excuse to get you to go somewhere and experience some kind of story there. In Witcher 1 though, for anyone who's played the game, I think I only have to talk about the Mysterious Tower and the Sephiroth that we need to find, and you'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, there are some fetch quests in both games, sure, but in that case it was a bit extreme, and while playing I definitely thought it was at least worth mentioning it and saying that I don't necessarily love the structure of every quest, especially when compared to The Witcher 3, of course. I also need to mention that I find it pretty annoying that you can't always find the characters where they should be or where your quest marker is taking you. For example, in Vizima, there is a guy named Vincent, and Geralt needs to interact with Vincent quite a lot. Now, if you follow your quest marker on the map to get to him during nighttime, well, he's not there. You then have to walk a pretty long distance to get to a campfire to meditate to daytime. Because no, in The Witcher 1, you cannot meditate from anywhere. You need to be at a campfire or rent a room to be able to meditate. Okay, so I just talked about some of the bad, but don't be fooled. At no point did I feel like the overall experience was bad or negative. It's quite the contrary, actually. I'm having a really hard time putting the game down, and I've honestly been quite surprised at how good it's been. So, what's so good about it? Well, I definitely enjoy how great the immersion is. The overall ambience is absolutely phenomenal. It's definitely on par with Witcher 3, and I would even argue at times it's actually better. The characters are very well developed, of course, that's something you can expect from CDPR, and they definitely managed to make me care about them.
Wagging gladly, bouncing with delight. My oh my, what a sight. Why no melancholy?
Of course, it wouldn't be The Witcher without difficult decisions, and unsurprisingly, it's filled with impactful choices to make in the game. It's a core part of Witcher 3, and it's still very present in Witcher 1. Now, to talk a bit about the graphics, while it does look dated and old, I love the overall art direction. I love the look of the cities, swamps, even the monsters. Honestly, I don't have an issue with the character models. They look pretty bad, but it's fine. It's definitely serviceable, and it's not something that's significant to the point where I can't enjoy the quests or the characters themselves. Moving on, I guess I also have to talk a little bit about Dice Poker. Dice Poker is a little minigame that you can do in-game. It's far from having the depth of, let's say, Gwent, but it's really easy to get into, and it's still a nice little activity to do every now and then, and the music that plays while you're playing the game is an absolute masterpiece. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not even sure if I'm playing the minigame for Dice Poker anymore or for the music, but alright everyone, let's keep this short and sweet. As I said, this is not my final review. I'm not even halfway through the game yet. It means my opinion is definitely subject to change once I'm actually done with the game, so all I can say so far is that it's been great, and I cannot wait to play more. I would definitely say that I'm hooked right now. Thank you for making it to the end, I really appreciate it, and please do consider subscribing to the channel or liking the video, or both if you enjoyed, it really helps. And I also want to take a second to say that I'm sorry for the lack of activity on the channel recently, but I do plan to go back to more regular uploads in the near future. Also, if you have played the game before, I would love to know what your thoughts about the game are, so make sure to leave them in the comment section. Alright, thanks again for watching, and I'll see y'all again soon in a new video. Bye bye.